Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Bruce, what's going on, man? How are you?
That's me.
That is you.
Doing absolutely wondermous.
Wondermus.
And if you don't know what wondermus is, it's the same thing as fabulosa.
Well, we're excited to have you here today. I know we had to do a best of last week. There was a lot going on in your world. You seen anything interesting in the news lately, Bruce?
No, not really. Anything going on?
Me neither. So we'll stick to wrestling because that's what you tuned into this show for.
Let's just, we'll just stay in our lane, Conrad.
I like staying in our lane. It's a fun place.
One day, you know what? We may just get out of that lane and just say, you know what, the hell with it. We're going to solve the problems of the world on this show, and that'll give you something to wrestle with, by God. But we're going to wait. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to just stay right in our lane and go from there.
And
see where it takes us.
Our lane is talking about wrestling from 20 years ago. Our topic today is Vengeance 2004. It went down at the Hartford Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut back on July 11th. There's about 7,000 fans in the building. Around 6,000 of those were paying fans, paying $370,000. A lot of the upper deck was tarped off. It does a 0.55 buy rate, which is roughly 240,000 buys. This is the fourth time we had a Vengeance branded pay-per-view. It is a Raw branded pay-per-view. What did you think of the difference between Raw pay-per-views and SmackDown pay-per-views? Were you an advocate for that, having brand specific pay-per-views?
In theory, yes. And the reason being is that you could have a different group each month. You could do Raw, you could alternate months, and then WrestleMania comes along and you can do the multi-branded, of course, Royal Rumble as well. But I liked having different brands for the different pay-per-views each month. So it didn't get overexposed and you had more time for stories to develop on each brand. And I think that helped. I think that was something that was good. To me, that was a good part of it.
Well, we're having a lot of fun here. We hope that if you haven't already, you'll hit the subscribe button at somethingtowrestle.com. That's our YouTube channel. It's your home for all things Bruce Prichard. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell.
Ding.
What would you say was the big difference between a SmackDown pay-per-view and a Raw pay-per-view? Is it the same crew? Is the vibe backstage the same, or does it feel different day of the show?
Well, your talent's different, and that's the difference. I mean, everybody else is the same backstage as far as you have SmackDown writers and creative from that point of view, but everybody else is the same. What's different is the talent and the stories, and you get to tell different stories. And I think that helps to have more time in between the pay-per-views.
We're coming off the Bad Blood pay-per-view where we would see Triple H defeat Shawn Michaels in a Hell in a Cell match, and Chris Benoit would retain the world title by defeating Kane. What did you think of the Benoit world title run up to this point? He won it, of course, back at WrestleMania 20, and now we're going to spend the rest of this year, or a lot of this year, trying to establish and make Chris Benoit. By July, how are you and Vince and the company feeling about the Benoit title run?
I think it was still too early to tell. That's hard, to make a decision so soon into it. Okay. And there was a lot of work, and we knew going into it that there was a lot of work that needed to be done to see if this is going to work. And I don't think that there had nearly been enough time for that to really make a good decision. So we were just, waiting and seeing and trying things, and knew that it was going to be a slow build.
Is there a rule of thumb? Hey, we want to give, the new guy X number of pay-per-views or X number of shows, or is it more of just feel?
It's a feel. Yeah. I mean, it's a feel. You gotta, there is no magic bullet. There is no, hey, this one thing. There is no
formula.
Yeah. That you can say, this is how you do it. This is the only way it can be done, because what works for one won't work for the other. And there may be instances where as soon as you do something with somebody and they think that, okay, this is who we, the office, is going to push, that the audience may regurgitate it and say, no, we don't want that. Or, yes, we really love that. They may tell you a lot right away, or they may sit back and do the same thing we are. We're going to wait and we're going to see and we're going to judge and watch how this develops before we make a decision. And we're going to put up with it and, show me what you got type of a thing. So, yeah, there is no formula. There is no set way that this is the only way to do it.
There's a report that comes out that says the WWE had an interview with a well-respected soap opera writer about joining the writing team for what's written to be $200,000 a year. And they were to do other things, but one of the things that would be their primary purpose would be storyline continuity. And it's written here that the key to this is that the writer was not only never a wrestling fan, but had no knowledge of the product whatsoever. How frustrated were you when you would find yourself perhaps entertaining the idea of working with not just someone who wasn't a quote unquote wrestling person, but they weren't even a wrestling fan and had no idea who any of these folks were?
Well, look, I'm also a big believer in that you grow from the outside in. Always enjoy getting other people that don't have the same experience to come into our world and try it on and see, how do you think you can make this work? How do you think this could be better? And listen to their ideas versus the way that you always do things. And to me, that's a easy out and a cheap way out. It's like, well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, just because it's the way you've always done it doesn't mean that there could be a better way to do it. So listen, try it on. Guy you're talking about, a guy named Paul Gay. I don't know if it was as much that he didn't know the business. It was more that he had an attitude of we needed him. And I think I met the guy one time in the very, very short time that he was here. And he was here and gone very quickly because he couldn't do it. Not for him, on both sides. We knew very quickly that this guy was not going to work out. And he knew very quickly that this was not going to work out. It just wasn't for him. He couldn't do it. It's not for everybody. Just because you can write something doesn't mean you can create here. And one of the reasons that I really am not keen on the term writer even. Well, yes, there are things that are written, but it's more of a creator. It's creative. You're creating things. You're not necessarily, I'm not a writer, never have been. But I can create shit. I can come up with ideas and things to do and formulate them. But to sit down and write, forget it. Not there.
Let's talk about another report that's in the news in this era. Quote, Edge has been told by management that he needs a makeover. They've been asking him to cut his hair, but he's been refusing. There's been a feeling that the long blonde hair stuff is outdated and that they've told people like Test and Christian and the new haircut sure changed their careers. Edge himself has always joked about his appeal to women by saying if he cut his hair off, it would all be gone. They also want to change his ring entrance. Triple H was so high on Edge that he got him off SmackDown specifically to work with him, and they had him beat Kane out of the shoot, but it didn't work. Many have noticed him getting booed in the more hardcore arenas like MSG, but a lot of that is due to Orton always being put over and people liking him because they think he's cool. There is a legitimate problem, as fans simply don't buy Edge as a tough guy, but that's been the role he's been trying to play since he came back. Do you remember there being a discussion about cutting his hair?
Yeah, and you know what? There were always discussions about that, and I thought that it was one of the, silliest discussions and decisions that would be made. Two people in particular, you can go ahead and guess who they are, but they ran talent relations and would always come in and, goddamn, look like a man. A man doesn't have hair, long hair and all this stuff. Look like a man, get a man's haircut. And they would go to developmental and they would give these speeches, and another guy would hear it and think that, oh, well, they want everybody to have short hair. And they would get everybody a haircut. And I kid you not, in Florida, at Florida Championship Wrestling, that all the young recruits coming in one day, guys that had long hair, different looks, they all went to the exact same barber, got the same haircut, and they looked like cookie cutters.
Yes.
They all had the same hair, exact same haircuts, same body type, same everything. And it's like, well, what differentiates you from anybody? You can always cut your hair if you need to, but you can't always grow it out as fast. My philosophy was one of, man, let your hair grow, let it go, and then we can figure it out when we're ready to figure it out, and we are actually ready to execute on whatever gimmick, whatever look we want to go with, and we can cut your hair then. But we can't grow it out that quickly. So there was a feeling, and it was permeating from the top down, from the talent relations side of things, that it should be men, and they should look like men and not like a little girl. And it's like, well, you know what, man? Men have long hair too. And if everybody else is going to be cookie cutter, just by definition, they're going to be different because they have long hair. Let it be. Let it be, man. It'll look cool and it's different. I get it, man. If you're from mid-southern state in the country, and by God, that's all you know, well, that's great. But there's a whole bigger world out there that knows different, and you got to give them variety, and you can't have everybody look the same and just be cookie cutter.
What do you remember about, the idea that Edge felt like it was a big part of his appeal to women? I mean, do you think...
Hello?
There he is right there. He's got an opinion about that. By the way, while, you're going to roll with us?
I'm going to turn this off.
Okay.
All right, let me turn that off. There we go.
Usually when we get a call like that,
buzz here. Huh?
Usually when we get a call like that, it means that I've got to throw to commercial, but we get to keep it rolling. How about that?
We go do, yeah, just keep it rolling, man.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about Larry Zbyszko. He's filed a lawsuit against WWE in this era because we're calling Randy Orton the living legend on some recent shows. And he, of course, is going to claim that he owns the name or the nickname living legend. You and I haven't spent a lot of time talking about Larry Zbyszko. Why didn't we ever see Larry do anything in the more modern era with the WWF?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've met Larry maybe twice ever. Larry's kind of one of those guys up there. Like, it's interesting to think about the years that I've been in this business, over a 50-year span, and the legends and the people that I've met through the years, and never really had any time to spend with Larry Zbyszko. Very nice when I met him, man, and funny son of a gun. Never heard anything but good things about him. So, as well as being a fan of his work, both in the ring and actually on commentary as well, I thought he was entertaining there. It was, I don't know. I just didn't get to hang around Larry a whole much.
Do you think there was an issue with him and Vince from back in the day, or how does his name never come up?
I think Larry subscribed to the same book that Bruno did, and that I think Larry held the old man up, Vincent J. McMahon, and I think that was frowned upon forever. So there was that side, and then I think that Larry had a viewpoint, and again, this is me surmising because I don't know, had a viewpoint that where Bruno hated Vince, and that, in my book, wasn't truly justified. And Larry stuck stuck to that. It just never shall the two meet in the middle.
We should talk about how business is here because we get some information here for the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2004. And we're going to see an increase of $21 million over the prior year. A lot of that is based on WrestleMania 20's buy rate coming in at 885, which is a strong increase over WrestleMania 19. It's up like 55%. We would also see home video business increasing from 8 million to 11.1 million. And there's a quote from Linda where she's saying that we've worked hard to increase our profitability and that effort is reaping rewards. When you are thinking about an increase in WrestleMania buys 19 to 20, and it's up 55%. By the way, 19 is a year where you had The Rock on the card wrestling Stone Cold. And now at 20, we're back at Madison Square Garden. We're not in a stadium. We're in an arena. Yes, Austin's there as a special guest referee. And yes, The Rock is there in a tag match. But it felt like to me, 19 would have been a monster buy rate. Somehow 20 beats it. Was that surprising to you?
No, because you saw the trend in the business going up.
From 3 to 4.
Business was going up. So, of course, you're looking at based on the trends and based on the way business was at the time that you would hope, yes, definitely WrestleMania is going to be bigger.
Let's take a look at some other news and notes here. The Motley Fool website is going to analyze where the company is financially. And they say when it comes to wringing out profits, WWE is clearly at the top of its game. The question for investors is whether they're willing to buy into a company with such a murky revenue picture. For my own part, I suspect revenues will remain in a slow growth phase for quite a while. Where did you think wrestling was? I mean, you said you could see the trend where it was, but as a fan, I never felt like 4 was a lot bigger or more profitable than 3. I mean, clearly it is, but it felt like after 2001, we were in a little bit of a lull for a bit. Did you feel that in 04 or no?
I felt business was actually on the upswing, and I felt the business was, gradually getting back to a good place and getting to where people knew about it again. And it was more mainstream at that point. There were more people that were tuning in. And again, people were buying merchandise. Business was good, and it was on the uptick. So as far as the profitability and the investment side of things, man, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. It's interesting when you listen to the pundits and you listen to the experts on that side of things. Is always interesting to me because I don't know what makes a stock a $12 stock or a $50 stock. So I think it's just more than anything the investor having confidence in that stock to perform. So, the Motley Fool knows a whole hell of a lot more about stocks and the market than I do. And I'm just grateful that the stock does perform. And at the time it wasn't moving a whole lot up or down. And that's good, just as long as it doesn't go on a downtrend. So I don't know.
Some other news and notes from this era. We've talked a little bit about JBL getting himself in some hot water over in Germany. As a result, he gets fired by CNBC. We've talked about all that in the archives recently. We would also see Brock Lesnar doing some interviews with ESPN where he's saying in hindsight, he took the quick path to fame and riches because he didn't want to be poor and he joined WWE. But in retrospect, he wishes he would have gone right into the NFL. I think it worked out the way it was supposed to. On the July 5th episode of Raw, it's a go-home episode before we actually get to the pay-per-view, and it does a 3.63 rating. JR and Jerry Lawler are introducing the show, and they're going to announce that Eugene was the GM for the night. Boy, of all the bad ideas from this era, I mean, do you think Eugene is near the top of the list? Or did you like the Eugene character?
I like the Eugene character. He was a fun, simple character that the audience adored, and it was a throwback to a. I like to compare Eugene to an Ivan Putski. That was a character that was somewhat simple in their beliefs and how they looked at life and everything about it. So that was Eugene. There was innocence. There was an innocence about him, and he was a lovable character. So I was always a fan. I thought he was a lot of fun. He was a lot of fun to work with, and the audience adored him. I think if the audience didn't like it and it was bad, they would have reacted that way and said, no, this is terrible. They didn't. They loved him. They embraced him. And it's always good to have a character that you can put your arm around and try to help them through. And if that character feels, you can feel that character needs the support of the audience, then that is a good babyface character.
I'm not trying to be funny. I swear I'm asking legitimately. Ivan Putski predates my fandom. Was Ivan Putski portraying a special needs person?
Neither was Eugene.
Eugene was not portraying a special needs person.
It's a simple character. If you want to look at it that way, and if that's how you view it, then that's you making that decision. That's not what we were trying to do. And Ivan Putski portrayed someone that came here from another country, that didn't know the language, and that was very innocent in his views. And that was the portrayal of Eugene as well.
So when you sat down Nick Dinsmore to try to explain to him this character, you just rolled some footage of Ivan Putski and said, be like that?
No, that's not what I said. That's what you're saying.
No, where did he draw inspiration from? Where did Eugene draw inspiration from, that character?
Just tried to help him in many ways, from again, an Ivan Putski to Igor to some of those different characters, but to be a very simple and not unintelligent, but a very naive and shielded person that loved everybody and that went into life with a different perspective than everybody else. He wasn't cynical. He didn't see if anybody had any ulterior motives or anything in dealing with him. He just went into it with love, and that was it.
Is it true that the Eugene character was loosely based on a fan who was a well-known, well-beloved fan?
The name Eugene was based on Eugene, God, I forget his last name. Bucky was his father in Pittsburgh, and his father carried the ring. His father was part of, had trucking service. His dad was a great guy, and he came, and Eugene was his son. So yeah, we took the name Eugene from that. It's kind of an homage to Eugene. He's a great kid.
Well, something else that's great is when Bruce gets his ding dong real hard. Our next sponsor needs no introduction. You've seen the ads. You've heard us talk about it a million times. And I bet there's a big part you
like it when your ding dong gets hard.
Yeah. I'm talking about Blue Chew, of course. This isn't your grandpa's blue pill. This is the one, the OG chewable tablet for better sex. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in a chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. And the process is simple. You sign up at bluechew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You can take them anytime, day or night. So plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at bluechew.com. This is the real deal. Think of it as like a hot tag for your wiener. Blue Chew wants the entire country rock hard. They told me that's the mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code WRESTLE at checkout. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code is WRESTLE to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. So listen, we've got a lot of skits here with Eugene on this episode. He's going to make Jerry Lawler, Stacy, Tyson Tomko, Chris Jericho, and Tajiri all play musical chairs, and the winner gets a title shot. Jericho wins, and Eugene reveals it's an Intercontinental title shot. What do you remember about these musical chair segments? This segment with Ric Flair playing musical chairs is one of the funniest things I remember on Raw in this era.
It was a fun segment. It was, just going back, and I think Flair pulled the chair out on Stacy, and It was absolutely hilarious. So, it was fun, and every single person, I think, especially at this time, maybe not today. I don't know. They still play musical chairs in school at all, but at that time, I think everybody could relate to what you wanted to do when you played musical chairs. And it was a damn fun segment.
La Resistance is going to beat Rhino and Val Venus to retain the titles. Eugene's going to tell Evolution backstage that he's going to team with Ric Flair against La Resistance at Vengeance. Triple H is going to come out and promote his title match against Benoit at the pay-per-view. Edge interrupts and vows that he's going to take out Evolution one at a time. They're all going to fight. Edge is going to bail when Evolution comes out. Batista and Kane are going to go to a no contest when Matt Hardy attacks Kane. Todd Grisham is going to interview Hardy backstage, who's refusing to comment on Lita. Todd's a name we haven't spent a lot of time talking about. What can you tell us about Todd Grisham?
Great guy. Todd currently does soccer and boxing and MMA. Just a great guy. Came to us from the outside, had a lot of excitement and passion for the business. But I think that he was good in his role. Started out as an interviewer, and we were hoping to train him to be a play-by-play guy. I thought he was good. I think that he could have eventually stepped up to be one of the best play-by-play guys. But opportunities arose outside of the business and kind of towards his passion. But man, Grisham, great guy, and very talented young man as well.
Speaking of people who come in from the outside, I know we don't talk about current stuff, but as a football guy, I'm pumped that Joe Tessitore is coming to be a part of WWE. Were you a big fan of his football stuff? How cool is that?
Yeah, tremendous guy. And as much as he loves his football and he's excellent at it, he loves this business just as much and is an avid fan and a walking encyclopedia.
Wow.
So, very excited, and also a good guy just in general. So that helps. That always helps when you're dealing with a good human being, as well as a talented one.
Man, I'm pumped. I can't wait to see what he does. I love his voice on football, and the idea that we're going to get his voice on some wrestling is going to be fun. Batista is going to fight Kane to a no contest. We mentioned that. Todd Grisham's backstage interviewing Matt Hardy. He's refusing to comment on Lita. And then we get Randy Orton and Chris Jericho. Remember, Chris Jericho won the musical chair, so he gets a shot at Randy Orton. Randy gets the win, but they got plenty of time for a television match here. 18 minutes and change. And then Hunter would jump with Eugene in a Fair Air mattress dome while manipulating him to go along with the plan. Nydia would beat Victoria and Molly Holly in a contract for a title match on a pole. That's a mouthful. Trish is going to give Lita a hard time about being pregnant. What a storyline that is. Triple H, Eugene, and Ric Flair are going to team up to take on Edge and Chris Benoit after Eugene knocks out Benoit with a chair. Of course, Benoit had Hunter in the crossface. And Vince McMahon is back at this Raw. He had missed the prior week because he had diverticulitis. We mentioned that before, that he was really hurting for certain, even back that Great American Bash pay-per-view. How different was this when there was, Vince, we know back in the day, man, he was at every TV, everything of any importance. It was rare that he missed a show. Was it just absolute chaos when he wasn't there for you personally?
No, not at all. I mean, it was, here's the thing, people, oh my God, everybody is trained. Everybody knows their jobs and can function and do it. You take away one piece and everybody fills in, does their job, and covers whoever is gone as well. So, to that, I say, it's like everybody thinks, oh my God, if somebody's gone, it's going to just crumble. Not even close. Everybody is trained and everybody is very good at their jobs and what they do, and they just do their jobs. There is no the rhetoric, the perception that that it all just crumbles. And I think, you even look later on with Vince no longer in the picture, where it's, oh my God, it's going to crumble. No, it's not. We've been trained. Everybody's been trained for years to do their job, and we did it while he was there, and we did it without him. So that's what it is. And without him being there, it was not there a lot. A lot of times, it's funny. You read reports from people. You read reports from people who aren't there or have any clue. I would read reports that I wasn't there, but yet I was there, calling, literally in the building, calling the show from an office. But because
you weren't in guerrilla, they assumed
whoever the stooges were that were feeding the information back to the dirt sheet people didn't know that, had no clue, but yet it's reported as fact, and it's inaccurate. It's just lies. It's just incorrect information. So same thing here, it was like sometimes Vince was there. Sometimes when Vince wasn't there, people didn't even notice because people just did their jobs and carried on. And a lot of times they don't even know that until way down the road.
I guess what I was looking at was, it feels like there might be, because we've all heard as wrestling fans that when Vince was there, sometimes he'd be making changes right up until showtime and even during the show. And with him not there and him calling you by phone, I mean, you've told us before that, boy, you were just miserable at times between trying to commandeer the ship and help run the show, but at the same time, you're on the phone the entire time. Are things changing more when he's not there, or are they changing less when he's not there?
Less. Definitely less. So, again, it just comes down to you're still talking to him.
Right.
If he has a phone, you're going to be talking to him.
Right.
But, and also, I would say that there was a need, maybe in his mind, to, until that show is on the air live, that you have an opportunity to make it better. Now, that's all relative and that's all personal feeling. I think that the general feeling was that we can make it better, and you're going to keep going until and relook at it until, man, it's on the air. I would say that you talk about rewriting a show during the show. I did that more than Vince McMahon ever has. I probably have done it more in a year than Vince McMahon has in a lifetime, because that's what I do when we're live and we have to rearrange because of timing or because of injuries or because of whatever comes up. And that's just life, man. That's the business. That's what you do. And people don't understand it because they think that, oh, you've got control over everything, but you don't have control over someone getting hurt. Sometimes you don't have control over someone going 18 minutes heavy in a segment. And when that happens, 18 minutes is the equivalent of 3 segments on the show that you have to make up. You still have to take those commercial breaks. You still have to make all this work. So, that's me. And that's what I would do. And I would, go in and make those changes. It wasn't Vince. And he gets painted with that brush, and it's not a brush of, oh, hey, I'm in the middle of the show, let's change it. No, there's reasons that we change it once that show starts. If things happen or something doesn't go right, then we have to go in and change it. And that would, God, it's on a weekly basis, but it doesn't happen every week. And that's a good thing. But when it does, we have to go in and we have to, kill it. That's what I do.
Let's talk a little bit about Hulk Hogan. He's going to appear on the Best Damn Sports Show period on July the 9th. And the subject of Vince McMahon comes up. And Hogan is going to play to Vince's ego, according to Dave Meltzer, talking about how Vince was both a good businessman and a legit tough street fighter. He told the story about being at some convention and Vince beating somebody up. How perfect. The hosts were ripping on Vince as disrespectful to Hogan by not bringing him back, and Hogan said he'd consider coming back. Hogan claimed he had never been contacted about being in the Hall of Fame, and he talked about being interested in one last comeback. And then, as Hogan would do, said maybe he'd do it with Ted Turner. Not sure if Vince would fall for that one, since he didn't bite when Hogan played the Jarrett card, and Jarrett at least had a company going. But it would be impossible for Turner to even start getting serious about thinking about a wrestling company without Vince knowing. And of course, Dave goes down the rabbit hole on, is it possible that Ted Turner could get back into wrestling? And ultimately, Hulk cuts a promo saying after he beat up The Rock, he ran over him with a semi, he beat up The Rock's father, and now him and Rock are tight. But he brought out his daughter Brooke and said that Playboy was interested in her. He talked about running for the presidency back in 98, and he claimed there was actually a poll that said he could beat Clinton, but he'd been talked out of it by his son, saying his son was afraid he'd be shot. This is a crazy interview here. Hogan's been known to do some crazy interviews. When you get word that, hey, Hogan said this, Hogan said that, did you take any of it personally or seriously, or did you know, man, he's just having fun?
Bless his heart.
Yes.
It's all, that's really all you can say at that point. Yeah, man, that's just Hulk. And Hulk likes to talk. Hulk likes to stir up controversy and say things that are going to get people talking. And I don't know what his motivation is, but that other than to get people talking and get his name back in the news and have people saying, God, is there anything to this? And people that don't know, that aren't in the business, that haven't been around him, they don't know that he's, quote, working. I'm working, brother. And I tell you what, man, he has got one of the bushiest mustaches of anyone I've ever seen in my life. He's got a hell of a Fu Manchu. I was just looking at that picture that was up there before, if you're watching us on YouTube, and that thing's incredible.
It is a thick mustache.
It is thick, man, all the way. I could grow my mustache out for 2 years and I couldn't get mine to look like that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's amazing. And he could shave that sumbitch and have it back there in probably about 6 days. Just full on. So, look, he's Hulk Hogan, and people look at Hulk Hogan as an icon. He is an icon. And I think that a lot of us just wish that he would be a little bit more forthcoming with actualities versus just saying things. And bless his heart, it is what it is.
Hey, talk to me a little bit about Brooke. I know that he's trying to promote her, and in this era, he's actually doing not just the Best Damn Sports Show, but Jay Leno and Regis and Kathy Lee. I mean, he's got a lot of shows booked, and he's trying to court some publicity for Brooke. Was there ever discussion about doing more with Brooke in the WWE, as best you can recall?
No.
What about his son, Nick? I mean, there's been a lot of speculation over the years that he once upon a time tried and trained with Rikishi to get into wrestling. I think he may have even done a little bit of that with Garrett Bischoff. Was there ever any discussion you can recall about Nick in the WWE?
No, nothing that was ever serious at all.
Hogan is going to find himself with Goldberg doing a bunch of big autograph sessions and signings together. One on July 11th at the Anaheim Pond. And they've got a lot of celebrities, Donald Trump to Steve Garvey to Magic Johnson. And they have Hogan's daughter here singing the national anthem and her single. He's going to introduce both Mr. T and Goldberg. Austin was advertised, but he's not there. But a lot of other folks, even like Pete Rose, are there. When, he's got all these rounds that he's making trying to promote Brooke. It's just fascinating to me that you don't believe it ever came up that he would have tried to got Brooke a WWE television appearance to sing a national anthem or something like that. Was that due to the nature of him and Vince? It was just sort of on again, off again, and they were off here.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, really, who knows? And that's, if Hulk had that conversation with Vince, I wasn't privy to it. I never heard it, and the subject never came up. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know that. But, Brooks' music career was Brooks' music career. And it was start stop several times. I don't know if she's still doing things now or what she's doing, but I know it was a lot of start and stops through the years.
From what I understand, she has started a business where she helps people decorate their short-term rentals like Airbnbs and VRBOs in the Nashville area. And I think she's a part of management of a big-time steakhouse in downtown Nashville. So she's done well for herself.
Good. Very nice young lady. Extremely nice. But it was, I don't know that it was in the cards for her to be in the business at all. And I can't, her music was not the type of music that I was into. So just doesn't mean it was good, bad, or indifferent. Just something that I wasn't a big fan of the genre. So
you're a big rap fan, right? You love your rap.
Okay. I can rap.
Well, I mean, I know you like that Lil Yachty song.
Hey. Yeah.
Hulk Hogan.
Because it's about Hulk Hogan. Everybody don't know what we're talking about. Check it out, man.
Yeah, Broccoli is the name of the track from Lil Yachty. He does have a Hulk Hogan reference in there that the first time I played it for Bruce, he thought was hysterical.
That's one of them NSFWs.
It is
NSFW, not sufficient for work.
Sufficient.
That's what I say. That's my thing.
Sufficient. I'm going to just start interchanging that with the word
you say safe, whatever the fuck you want to say, all right? I say it's not sufficient.
I love that so much. Hey, we were talking about Hulk Hogan, of course, and he's making some headlines recently because he's launched a new beer, the Real American Beer. Have you had a chance to try Hulk Hogan's new beer?
Haven't seen it.
But when it comes to Connecticut, will you check out a Hulk Hogan beer?
I mean, sure.
What'd you think of Stone Cold's IPA? Are you a fan of Broken Skull IPA?
I am of the lighter one.
The lager?
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, very good. And there's a place right over the county line here in New York. We'll go straight up Long Ridge, right across in Bedford, New York, and they've got all this beer all the time. It's good.
Well, what else?
Encourage people to try that.
We would also encourage you to try theamazingkind.com. I know Bruce has.
Only if you want to feel better.
Bruce has been, he's been put through the ringer in the last year. He's been under the knife more than the steaks at my house. And he had to turn to theamazingkind.com. And he's glad he did. They've got something that's good for what ails you. I actually have this in my kitchen right now. Actually, my kitchen counter to the left of my refrigerator, it looks exactly like this. I got them all lined up. I got my CBD, I got my CBG, I got my CBN, And I'll admit I'm learning, but what I'm learning is theamazingkind.com has everything. We're talking about topicals and we're talking about the infused oils. The infused oils, my wife is a big fan of. Just yesterday, she started to have some shoulder pain. And I said, hey, why don't you go over there to the left of the refrigerator, pick up that CBD and just drop a drop under your tongue. And she did. She managed to take a nap. She felt light years better. Last night before she went to bed, because she's really had trouble sleeping because of the shoulder, I told her to hit that CBN. Couple drops under her tongue, bam. She slept like a baby. Told me this morning it's the best sleep she's had in a long, long time. And it's all because of theamazingkind.com. Let me explain. These infused oils are made from all natural sun-grown hemp, and they're infused with nutrient-dense MCT oil. We really believe in this product too, because the founder, well, man, he's one of us. He's a big wrestling fan. As a matter of fact, he used to work in the wrestling business. He was a producer and editor at the WWE. He helped work on their commercials and marketing, but they've also got great topicals. And that's what Bruce was reaching for. They've got these topical balms. They've got the creams and the gels, all for your muscles and joints. If you're a little sore, if you're hurting for certain, it doesn't get any easier than just rubbing it on what hurts and it starts to feel better. The Amazing Kind can hook you up with everything you need for CBD, CBG, and CBN. If you've got pain management, like maybe you've even got fibromyalgia or neuropathy, these CBD topicals can help you. Frances in my office, she really struggles with migraines. I hooked her up with some of the topicals from theamazingkind.com. Light years better. It can also help with your skin conditions if you've got acne or psoriasis or eczema or just dry skin. This product at theamazingkind.com can help. My wife really loves the topicals. She's been working out. She's doing some fitness competitions and she needs some help with her muscle recovery. She knows what to do. Go to theamazingkind.com. CBD, by the way, can even show potential as an anti-inflammatory agent. So you just feel better. If you're looking to feel better or get better sleep or have fewer nighttime awakenings, meaning I want help falling asleep, staying asleep, and get that restful, restorative sleep, look no further than theamazingkind.com. Go right now to theamazingkind.com and use our promo code WRESTLE. You'll get 20% off your entire order. Think about that. Not just one item, but everything you're getting, you're going to get 20% off when you use our promo code WRESTLE at theamazingkind.com. That's theamazingkind.com. So let's talk about the pay-per-view, man. I'm pumped about this. It's an interesting show. It gets 60% thumbs up. It's Vengeance 2004. Most everyone agrees the best match is Randy Orton versus Edge. The second best match was Chris Jericho versus Triple H. Let's get into it. We had a dark match with Tyson Tomko over Val Venus in 2 minutes and 52 seconds. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about Tyson Tomko. Why don't you think he had a longer, more fruitful run in the WWE?
Because he just wasn't that good. He's a big guy, nice guy, but there's just something missing. He didn't have a logical feel or instinct for the business. Instinct's probably a better word, because he didn't know logically what to do next, and had all the tools. Looked great. Looked like $1 million, man. Looked like the kind of guy that you're going to draw a big nasty heel that you want to be on top, that people could believe in just by looking at a picture of him. And then damn bell would have to ring, and I just don't know that Travis was able to deliver once the bell rang. I don't know. I do know he wasn't.
All righty. Let's talk about the first match on the show. We got Tajiri and Rhino teaming together to beat Jonathan Coachman and Garrison Cade. Why in the world are we putting Coachman in so many matches?
Why not? He had heat. Coach could garner natural heat. And I thought that he played his role. Here was a guy that was an announcer that was able to go out and get heat with the audience and maintain it and have matches. I had better instincts than Travis. I I thought Coach played his role to perfection and was able to engage with the audience to the point that they truly hated him and they wanted to see him be defeated and take a whooping. And I thought Coach did that very well. So it was something that was real, that was visceral, that, hey man, it was easy to understand.
Well, it's crazy to think about because I have to admit, even I didn't know it until we started doing research for this show. Coach had 55 matches with WWE. And I thought, man, that can't be. There's no way. Well, it turns out a chunk of those matches were house shows.
Yeah.
It wasn't just TV. You guys had him working the house show loop. That's amazing. Like,
yeah,
I don't think he gets his just due.
No, he was, look, man, he was a great heel.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, a lot of these house show matches are against Eugene, so I'm sure there was a little bit of fun here. Meltzer would say, or I'm sorry, actually, this is Wade Keller. Everyone looked fine in the match except Coachman. He had more personality out there than the other three combined. Tajiri blew the mist at Cade. Rhino went to Gore Coachman, but he moved, allowing Cade to take it. Tajiri looked good and made the match half a star. The Triple H Eugene show long storyline here through the course of the pay-per-view would actually see Eugene disappear. And when Triple H finds him, he's talking to Benoit, and Benoit was telling him that Triple H is using him. Next up, we get Batista pinning Chris Jericho in 12 minutes and 19 seconds after a powerbomb, even though Jericho got his foot on the ropes. Wade would say, Batista looked the worst he's looked in a long time. He was even worse than Tomko. Much of it was Batista dominating with the power working off a full Nelson. Jericho made a brief comeback late in the match. Strong words here from Wade. He was even worse than Tomko. It's not polite, but chat me up.
Not accurate either, I don't think. But
how does a guy like Batista come around and become the man just a year later, and Tomko doesn't? Is there a light bulb moment that happens, you think, in Batista's career?
Yeah, Dave had a clue, and Dave understood, what his role is, and Dave figured it out once he got out into the ring and was able to captivate an audience and make people care about him through his charisma and his natural personality, whereas unfortunately Tomko didn't. That was the big difference. The difference was personality, and the difference was being able to turn that on and make that charisma enough to connect with an audience. It's an audience connection is what makes the difference, plain and simple. And you either have it or you don't. In this case, Batista had it, Tomko didn't. I do want to, talk about, we had Tajiri in the last match, and this actually came up the other day, and it was so funny because big fan of Tajiri. I think that Tajiri was one of the, biggest unsung heroes during his time here. He was absolutely phenomenal. His work in the ring, but also his backstage and his timing and his natural comedic timing was priceless. But Tajiri, before Tajiri came in, I used to go to Mexico and spend days there and meet with, whether it be Paco Alonso or Antonio Pena and things of that nature, and spend time in Mexico and go to some of their bigger shows, and Tajiri would be there. And Tajiri was my translator. So Tajiri is Japanese. We're in Mexico. Tajiri speaks fluent Spanish, and he was translating the Spanish to English for me, as Japanese being his first language. And when he came in to so many people, Tajiri would be, no English. I don't understand. But yet was my interpreter. I go up to him one day, I said, Tajiri-san, no English. And he says, what? But it could be very convenient for him. And everybody always used to laugh when people would come to me. He doesn't speak any English. No. Yeah, watch this. And I would go over and have a conversation with him. But mean, God, man, Tajiri was awesome. He was one of those guys that I think was above and beyond. And that was a perfect example of where charisma, personality, and timing, all of it came rolled into one with Tajiri. I thought he was an absolutely incredible performer. And then, we go on and I'll catch up to, Batista. I think the Batista, same thing. Batista was learning, still learning. But Batista had the connection with the audience that he was able to get the audience to care about what he did. And you can do as many Hurricane Ranas and flippity flop flies and all this incredible shit. If the audience doesn't care about you, then it's kind of if you have a 42-star match in the middle of the forest and nobody hears it or sees it, does it really matter?
Were you surprised of everyone who's gone on to have Hollywood success? Was Batista the biggest surprise to you? Like, we knew The Rock would be, we knew John Cena would be, but I didn't call Batista having as much success as he has. I wasn't pulling against him. I'm just saying he's exceeded my expectations.
Well, it was, I say no from this point of view, is that Dave is the type of individual that will pour himself into whatever it is that he's doing. So if Dave wanted to start training in jiu-jitsu, Dave dove into it all the way. And Dave saw an opportunity to act. And instead of going, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this Drax character, which may not require the most acting per se, other than looking the part and being the part. Dave took it very seriously and took acting classes and really trained to act. So that's the kind of person that Dave is. So when he got into it, I thought, you know what, man, he could do it. He could do it. I think the question that you're asking, did I see it then? No. Did I see Dave being one of those guys that is going to go and emerge as a top actor? I did not see that. I didn't see that in the cards at the time. Once he did it, I was like, he's going to bust his ass to make this thing work. But at this point in his career, I did not see that.
Next up, we've got La Resistance retaining the tag titles, this time beating Ric Flair and Eugene by DQ. Wade would say, not much for wrestling, but it had its moments of campy entertainment. Flair and Eugene worked as baby faces. Even though they had teased they wouldn't get along, there were no signs of it during the match, other than Flair being pissed when Eugene did all of his spots, including the face first flop. Flair's going to come in, and that was probably the most popular wrestler on the show. He got a far bigger reaction than Eugene. He does his signature spots. He starts selling a lot. And when Eugene came in and goes berserk, he throws down Mike Chioda for the DQ. He then gives a stunner to Sylvan and a rock bottom to Conway, and even does the people's elbow to Conway. Man, this tag team pairing, this is all comedy. This is all fun stuff with Flair and Eugene. Eugene doing the Flair spots. That's a real bright spot in this show for me. It made me laugh.
Yeah, it was just entertaining. It was fun. And Eugene brought you in and took you out of the moment and let you have fun and lighten up. But also you had to have the Ric Flair on the other side making that work with his reactions. So Eugene could have gone out there and done Ric Flair all night long, and it would have been fun. It would have been entertaining. But having Ric's reaction took you even more into it. I think that Ric's reaction and the way that Ric pulled that off is what made it so good to me. I thought that was, very highly entertaining, and Rick had an opportunity to play it either way, and Rick took it to the next level and made it mean something, and let everybody else know, hey, it's okay. This is okay to react to this in this way. I just thought it was great.
Next up, we've got a little promotional package explaining this whole Hardy Kane Lita soap opera, if you will. And the crowd live here boos the package. Matt Hardy gets the win over Kane in 10 minutes and 34 seconds. And Wade would say Hardy had to win because nobody believed in him a lick. They worked how they should have, but considering how much time has been spent on this angle, it had very little heat. Hardy hit Kane with the ring bell and then a twist of fate. Kane kicks out and sits up, does a sloppy choke slam, and goes to get the ring steps. Lita runs in to protect Hardy, and Kane comes into the ring with the steps, but Hardy clocks the steps with a chair, and Kane falls backwards and is pinned. 2.25 stars. Listen, I liked what we were trying to do with Kane in this era. We're evolving the character. But this soap opera stuff with Lita and Matt and Kane, this was a real eye roller for me. Did you like it? I mean, maybe it didn't get where it was supposed to. What was your thought of that storyline?
I thought it was fun. It was different. Sometimes I think that you can take the personal soap opera aspect and make it too much into absurdity. And in some ways, this storyline went over the line into the absurdity column. At the same time, it's meant to mirror real life in many ways, and take stories and take some of the absurdity of real life and bring it to life. It was what it was. I think out of the whole thing is Kane growing and seeing Kane grow and develop and change, and seeing more character and feeling and emotion from the character Kane over this time, I thought was really good stuff.
Let's talk about the next match here. It's Edge and Randy Orton. Edge is actually going to beat Randy Orton to win the Intercontinental title. 26 minutes and 36 seconds. This is going to end Orton's 7-month reign as the Intercontinental Champion. That would make him the longest champion in the last 7 years. There's a mixed reaction up front. Let's go Orton, let's go Edge, dueling chants from both sides. The Torch gave it 4.25 stars. Wade would say, I thought this was an excellent match, with Orton showing the most poise and star charisma I've ever seen from him. Orton worked over Edge's neck for a long time. He did a long cranking chin lock. To some, it was a never-ending rest hold, but to others, it was working the neck using a unique angle. The timing and the spots was all perfect. They got up and did one near fall after another, playing off Orton's previous cheating wins, and the crowd heat at the finish was excellent. At one point, they traded hard elbow and forearm shots like they were wrestling in Noah. Orton wrestled through a crossbody for a near fall. Orton undoes the turnbuckle padding. Edge is going to use an implant DDT for a near fall. Orton drops Edge on the exposed metal and uses the ropes for another near fall. And the place is popping huge for all of this. And Orton ends up being whipped into the exposed metal. He's hit with a spear for the pin. And Edge gets the title win. This is a hell of a performance by Randy Orton. He's coming off of quite the run with the Intercontinental title. We mentioned it was the longest at that point in 7 years. But we also know that this is July. And come August 15th in Toronto, Randy Orton's going to be the guy to beat Chris Benoit to become the world champion. You clearly had an idea in mind that that's where you're headed for him to drop the title here. Who was a big advocate for Randy Orton and pushing him to the top of the cards at this point?
Who wasn't? You look at the talent of Randy Orton. You look at the, as said in recent weeks, you're going to draw a picture of the stereotypical, champion to build around. It would be, a Randy Orton. And Randy was young. Randy looked like $1 million, and Randy worked like $1 million. So that was an easy decision to make, and one that the audience understood and got behind. So yeah, man, it was like everybody was in Randy's corner. It was, in my opinion, the best of the best at that time. He truly was the guy that was coming up. He was new. It was fresh. And the audience believed in Randy because Randy made you believe in him. So everybody was in Randy's corner. And to me, it was the logical thing to do and the right direction to go in.
You know, you said at the top of the show when I asked about, you know, how was Chris Benoit's title run going? And you said it was too early to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, we're taking the belt off Randy. So you know that's the direction you're headed, that he's going to challenge Chris Benoit. Do you think you had already decided, was the decision already made that he was going to be the guy to unseat Chris, or were we still a ways away from coming to that conclusion?
You know, I think we were a ways away, you know, talking about it, but at the same time, looking at it as this could be a program. So maybe not dropping the title right away, but allow Chris and Randy to work a program. And that was twofold: to get Randy the experience that he needs with a Benoit, and also to give Benoit even more credibility as champion. And I think it just was time. You know, timing when you get to it was the deciding factor. And I think you could have flipped a coin there, and either one would have been right.
Let's, before we go any further, because we've got a lot more matches that we can discuss here, but I want to just put everybody up on a little bit of game with our friends at Game Time. Game Time is your official home, your official marketplace for Major League Baseball. It's going to help make getting tickets faster and easier. And prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. You've got killer last minute deals. You can actually see the all-in prices right up front. You can even view from your seat. So instead of looking at a seat map, you can say, is this a good seat? Well, let me see the perspective from that seat. That all happens inside the Game Time app. And by the way, the Game Time app also provides you with their lowest price guarantee. You see, Game Time has taken the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. I should mention, you can save up to 60% buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. It's not just baseball, but it's everything. But I'm a big believer in this. I've used this myself. My family is plugged into this. Just yesterday, Megan was looking for tickets for a concert that's going to be happening not too far from us. Game Time had the best price by far. They do these flash deals that are exclusive in-app deals where you can actually get select seats ahead of the game or the event. They've even got zone deals where you choose the section and you let Game Time choose the seats. You're going to get a great price that way. Speaking of pricing, I've been in the ticket game for a minute, right? I've been looking for good seats, and some of the other sites that I've used way back in the day, well, they would show you one price, but then when you actually get to your cart, it's way bigger. Well, they had added this big buyer's premium in there that they don't tell you about up front. So you think you got a good deal. Really, you don't. At Game Time, they don't do that nonsense. You see the all-in pricing right up front, and you get that seat perspective view. But the lowest price guaranteed, let me explain. If you find cheaper seats in the same row and section, Game Time won't just credit you the difference. They'll credit you 110% of the difference. They don't want to make sure you got a good deal. They want to make sure you got the best deal. I'm a big believer in Game Time. I hope that you'll check it out. My daughter has used this for Lana Del Rey tickets at the Orion. I've mentioned it before. She went from looking at another ticketing site that had her on the very last row of the building, like her back would have been against concrete in the nosebleeds. We got her on the front row, and it was a difference of $20 a ticket. $20 to go from worst to first. Game Time made it happen, and they can do it for you. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code WRESTLE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code WRESTLE. That's WRESTLE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So listen, let's talk about the storyline with Randy Orton. he's been a heel because he's a part of Evolution, but the fans are behind him here. So they're kind
I
of,
guess I got to turn on I turned my microphone off. Sorry.
all right.
Well, I was saying he's a heel, motherfucker.
Okay. Got it. There you go.
That's all.
When did you know we've got to turn Randy babyface? I mean, this match is obviously a vote in that direction because you see a split audience. We know that at SummerSlam or shortly thereafter, he is going to become a babyface. But did you know by July? Did you know in April? I mean, does it go back to the whole Foley thing? When did fans, do you think, start to come around on Randy Orton?
I mean, they were coming around. So it's a feel. It's a feel. The audience is going to let you know, man. We love what he's doing. We like this guy, and you listen to it. You let it fester. You let them feel like they're the ones that are turning them, because they are. And it all comes back to the audience, and it becomes the audience that you are playing to making that decision. And sometimes you'll just wait for it to be the right fever pitch time to make that turn.
If I had to look back, I would say it might be his match with Mick Foley that turns him babyface and gets the audience behind him. Would you agree with that?
I think that played a big part in it, because you got to see how tough Randy was, and the fact that he hung in there with a legend like Mick, and came back, and you saw, all right, man, he's a player. Randy's tough. Randy can do this, and did it well. So that was without a doubt one of the moments in time where people were going, yes, he's got it, and he's my guy, and I believe in him. And that's the big part. Your audience has to believe in the performer before you can get them to, dictate which way it's going to go.
Let's talk about the next match here on the show. It's Victoria and Molly Holly. The winner is going to be in line for a title shot at the injured Trish Stratus, possibly at SummerSlam. Frankly, this is a death position for these ladies to be in. It's going to be really hard to follow this incredible match with Edge and Randy Orton that we've just seen. And it's right before the main event. I hate that this is the spot that this match is in, but is this the epitome of a let me up match? Like, we need something to just hit reset. And I know it's not fair to anybody, but
that's not a let me up match. It's just a different match. It's a different style, and it's something that is unlike what just happened, and something that's going to be very different from what you're about to see. So it's just a difference. It's something to take you away from the match prior, and same thing for what is still to come. And it is put in a position, it's like, well, why'd you put that there? Okay, well, you have so many matches, you got to put them somewhere. And there are different feelings and different thoughts on how and why and what. And in this particular situation, it's a matter of, okay, we've got so many matches, and I think that, the order was what it was, and it was something different to take you out of one thing and into something else. And you put a solid match in between that is not as heated, doesn't have as much story and emotion as the matches before it and after it. So they got to be somewhere.
No doubt they got to be somewhere. And it's time for our main event. This is going to be a big one. It's Chris Benoit defending his title against another former champion, Triple H. Now, leading up to the match, Benoit won the Royal Rumble match, and that earned him a shot at the championship at WrestleMania 20. We know that becomes a three-way dance, and Benoit beats both Triple H and Shawn Michaels. At Backlash, Benoit would successfully defend the world title in another triple threat match against both of those guys. He tapped out Triple H to the crippler crossface at WrestleMania. At Backlash, he's actually going to beat Shawn Michaels with the sharpshooter. He starts a little bit of a feud with Kane and picks up a win with him at Bad Blood. And now here we are. We're getting a little recap package to sort of lay out how we got to this point. Eugene is heavily involved. And Bischoff is telling Triple H he could be the number one contender if he beats up Eugene. Triple H goes to attack Eugene, but Benoit makes the save, but he accidentally hits Eugene in the head with a chair. So Triple H manipulates Eugene and makes him an honorary member of Evolution. It leads to Eugene saving Triple H from a sharpshooter and hitting Benoit in the back with a chair. And that leads to Triple H pinning Benoit in a match on Raw. And Triple H would comment that Eugene would play a part in Triple H winning the title back. And here we go. They get plenty of time in our main event, 29 minutes and 4 seconds. Benoit pins Triple H. And it's a pretty fun match. 3 3/4 stars is what Wade gave it. As you might imagine, we're going to see some shenanigans. There's a ref bump. Triple H does a DDT. Triple H tells Eugene to come out. He does. Benoit gets the crossface on, but again, there's no referee. Benoit's going to tell Eugene to get the ref, but Eugene's refusing to do so. So Triple H is tapping out, of course, but there's no referee. And Benoit's going to deck Eugene because he's refusing to get the ref. And the crowd's booing that. Yeah, Triple H hits a low blow and a pedigree, and then Eugene gets the ref, but Benoit kicks out. Triple H tells Eugene to get a chair, and Eugene gives Triple H a chair, but stops him from using it. So Eugene is shoved by Triple H off the apron down to the floor, and then he gets the chair and teases that he's going to hit Benoit, but he stops and teases that he's going to hit Triple H. He stops the tease again, and Benoit and Eugene start a struggle over the chair until Benoit lets go. Eugene pulls the chair away and accidentally hits Triple H with it. Eugene starts crying about screwing up, and Benoit scores the win with a schoolboy. Boy, this is another Chris Benoit Triple H match, but this time heavy on story, heavy on Gaga with Eugene right in the middle. What'd you think of the execution here?
Oh, it was excellent. Truly did. Because it was simple. It was simplicity. Easy to understand. Everybody got it. And the roll up, all of that, I thought was on the money, logical, and very simple. Everybody played their part here to perfection. It was also an opportunity to put Benoit in a story that wasn't just about, oh, let's go out and have a wrestling match. That had, as Michael Hayes say, some emotionality, dude. And you felt it, and it wasn't just about a wrestling match. So I thought the story was great. I thought the execution of it was to perfection because you felt for Eugene in it. You felt the conflict of right and wrong and what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And if I do this, here are the ramifications of that. I thought it was really, really, really good from that vantage point. And the audience got it and they enjoyed it.
When you think back to all your years in wrestling, is there a storyline that's similar to the Eugene storyline? Maybe with a manager or a valet or another wrestler?
Look, to me, it's very similar to, pretty much any manager that you can go back and when it's ready to turn them, that the same thing. There's a lot of them. To sit here and give you a specific right now off the top of my head, I can't, but there are dozens upon dozens. And it's very simple to understand. It's very simple for people to want to try to do what they think is right for it only to be the wrong thing in the end, and or vice versa. And simple. It's easy. I think when you stick to simplicity and you stick to straightforward storytelling, that is easy for the audience to understand and hope for, and they're waiting for the next chapter in the story. That's what you want to do. You don't just tell them everything here. You want that story to continue to have layers upon layers, and that was the attempt here. I dare say it during this time period. I think that a lot of things were rushed lot faster than they should have been. But that's one of those, it is what it is.
If you had it to do over again, would you have changed anything with the Eugene story?
I don't know. I mean, again, that's a long arc of a story. I'm sure there's some things that we would change, but I think that overall, it was one of the most popular characters that we had, especially at the time.
This is the first singles match against each other that we've seen for Triple H and Benoit since Benoit won the world title. Now, of course, there were a couple of three-ways in there with Shawn Michaels we mentioned, but the last time they met in a singles match was back in No Mercy 2000 at the pay-per-view. So we're like 4 years removed from that. What did you think of the chemistry that Benoit had with Triple H?
I thought they had good chemistry because they both like that same style, which is a very solid and rough style. So it mixed, and Triple H being a little bit bigger than Benoit, and it gave Benoit at least a fighting from underneath feel to it. And I thought they worked. I thought that their styles complemented each other.
When you think back on the Benoit title run, would you consider it a success?
Not really. I don't think it was. I don't think that the audience ever really, the WWF audience, WWE audience, I don't think that they really saw Benoit as the guy. Saw him as a great wrestler, but it kind of ended there. I don't think that they ever saw him as the guy. This is the guy that's going to be on whatever as a spokesperson for the WWE. I don't think anybody ever saw that. And, at first we thought, okay, we can try this and let's see if we can get him there. But it just wasn't who he was. And it wasn't who and or how the audience perceived him. So I don't think that it was, look, we tried. So not everything's going to hit. This didn't hit.
Respectfully, do you think the audience viewed him more as an intercontinental champion than a world champion?
They viewed him as a wrestler. They didn't view him as an entertainer.
There you go. Well, he's the champ. This is his only title run. It's 154 days, but it's a single solitary run. So he was the world champion the same number of times as the great Khali here, or Jack Swagger. Had a lot of great matches, but none of that will be his legacy now.
No.
Next week, we'll continue our conversation about Mick Foley here on Something to Wrestle. We briefly talked about him recently, and man, you couldn't cover his entire story in an episode or two or even three maybe, but we'll pick up where we left off talking about Mick Foley. We'd love to hear your questions. If you've got questions for us, go to your home for all things Bruce Prichard at somethingtowrestle.com. That's our YouTube. It's totally free. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. And I also want to mention, if your business is targeting men 25 to 54 years old, well, there's no better place to advertise than right here with us on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. You hear some of the same ads week in, week out for years. Why is that? Well, because it really works. With our super targeted audience, there's very little waste. Find out how affordable it can be at advertisewithbruce.com. If you're looking to interact with us, the show is on all forms of social media. It's at Prichard Show on Twitter and Instagram, Something to Wrestle over on Facebook. Love to have your questions and your interactions there. Bruce, did we cover Vengeance 2004 as thoroughly as we could? Did we leave any stones unturned? Is there any final words you want to share with us about Vengeance 2004?
I think we covered it pretty good. I know when we came into this and I was like, God, I don't remember anything about this. And then once I started looking into it and started doing your research and go, oh yeah, shit, this was kind of a fun time. And it was a rebuilding time. It was a period where, was it the best and something that people point back to? Maybe not, but I think internally you can point back and go, okay, here's a transitional time where we are trying things. We're trying things with Benoit. We're trying things with Randy Orton. And we're looking at the business in a different way to elevate it. And I think that in that regard, that it was a pretty interesting time, man. I think there were a lot of things going on, and going to the SmackDown and Raw separately branded pay-per-views. Again, it was a different time, and it was a unique time and space.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys will join us next week when we're talking about Mick Foley. We'll be back in 2 weeks talking about Great American Bash 2006, which has King Booker on top. I can't wait to talk about that. And in 3 weeks, we're talking about Harley Race here on Something to Wrestle. Be sure to hit that subscribe button at somethingtowrestle.com. Turn on the notifications bell, and we'll see you next week right here on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard.
Sometimes Jimmy Jam came along. Those were the best days. Now they're gone. It's been 12 years. I'm going to learn more, but check out Freebird Road on YouTube. Michael B.S. Haynes, by God. And until next week, rock on.
So long, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. SaveWithConrad.com.
My name is Doug Gustafson, and we are from Columbus, Ohio. First learned of Conrad through his podcast network. I'm a big 83 Weeks fan. Probably got into a little bit more credit card debt than what we wanted to during the course of the pandemic. We wanted to get rid of some of that. My wife and I had luckily bought the house many years ago and had quite a bit of equity built up in it. We are looking to actually redo our bathroom, things around the house that we wanted to do with the other equity that we have left over. We've been talking about refinancing forever, and I finally just took the plunge and called the number, got a hold of him, and from start to finish, it was just fantastic. I had Diane within the day. The communication with her was fantastic. The process moved quicker than I could have ever hoped. My name's Doug Gustafson from Columbus, Ohio. I ended up saving $800 a month with Save with Conrad, and am able to also update our bathroom.
NMLS number 32416, Equal Housing Lender, SaveWithConrad.com.